Hold up, they were still building these? So it would appear Kenworth is discontinuing the W900, a truck I had no idea was still being mass produced. It's the truck everyone thinks of when they hear American Semi. I'll be the first to admit I don't know much about how the mechanics of these trucks work. I feel like I might have a stroke trying to figure out how to work a twin stick.
Pause, bro.
All I know is some of these semis cost a lot more than you'd expect, and they make enough torque to spin the globe backwards. But I honestly thought manufacturers had moved on to these more modern styles, and these older ones were being kept on the road by drivers that didn't want to, get rid of their old reliable. I can't be the only person that thought these were fashion statements for Transformers fans. Little did I know you could get one as a 2025 model year, and it's been on sale for a grand total of 63 years. Ladies and gentlemen, who am I kidding? Gentlemen, that is the lifespan of a whole senior citizen. I guess it makes sense though, because these are pretty much unkillable and they put in some serious miles. Apparently with regular maintenance, these can hit a couple million miles, like it's nothing. But hey, you learn something new every day. Let me know what you guys think of these in the comments. Like and follow for more. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure what Toyota was thinking with this one. Look, I love a Supra as much as the next guy. The Mark IV needs zero introduction, and the Mark V, with its B58, has been an absolute rock star. But it's going away, and Toyota is building a send-off called the Final Edition. But it's got an eye-watering price tag. This guy is going for 155,000 big ones, or about 143 in European monies. Now, to put that in context, for that much cheese, you can get 2 of these, 3 of these, and like 10 of these. Don't check my math, I'm trying to make a point. But that's not even the funniest part. See, for that much money, you could just get 3 regular ones.
Wait a minute!
But this has to be justified somehow, right? Let's get into what you get for your hard-earned cash. Starting off, you get some aero upgrades in the front, this very nice swan neck spoiler, in carbon, of course. Some carbon Recaro buckets, red Alcantara guts all on the inside, some nice titanium wheels with upgraded Brembos, adjustable KW suspension with some other suspension tweaks, a titanium Akrapovic exhaust, and a decent power bump going to 429 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque. These are also manual only and will be limited to 300 units in Europe and Japan. But even with all that, I'm not sure it justifies 90 grand over a regular Supra. But that's just me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like and follow for more.
See this? This is peak because I can engineering. Traffic laws be damned. Whatever I can't see because of my 76 turbos, I'll freaking bulldoze out of the way. And I'm actually in awe of the fabrication skill on display here because this is all functional. This guy's name is Cody from the YouTube channel Whistling Diesel, purveyors of fine automotive debauchery. Now, he took what was already a EPA agent's worst nightmare in the form of a Dodge Ram with a Cummins and smacked 17 inhalers on that thing. And this is why I love this dude's content, because we all get the itch for some good clean carnage every now and then, and talk about push and boundaries. He drove a truck into the ocean and got turned away by the Coast Guard, barbecued a Ferrari, went full Amish and slapped wagon wheels on a Hellcat, and tossed a G-Wagon into a sinkhole. But nothing compares to what he did to this poor Hilux. Now you might remember a Top Gear episode from back in the day where they took a similar Hilux and set about finding ways to end its life. They tossed it in the ocean, set it on fire, thumped it with a Miley Cyrus, dropped a house on it, dropped it from a building, and to everyone's astonishment, it still survived. And so Mr. Whistlin here decided to replicate this experiment. He started slow, testing out the fit and finish, interior and exterior. And it survived that. Then he tested the suspension. And it survived that. Then he tested the stability. And the roof caved in, but it did survive. And so he did some light off-roading. Oh. And it did super well. So my guy decided to cap things off by dropping it from a helicopter. Twice. 10,000 feet the second time. It didn't survive that one. It got pancaked. Um, but it put up a good fight. Rest in peace, little truck. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like and follow for more.
Now, regardless of what the news might tell you, there has never been a greater threat to public safety than a Ultima driver about to miss their highway exit.
Good luck, everybody else!
But what happens when you take a Ultima and crank it up to 11? You would get something like the Ultimaniac. But first, I think we all know why the Ultima has the reputation it has.
If that pulled up outside your house, you'd think, oh no, a drug dealer is here.
It is the official car of 96-month loans, bad credit, CVT transmissions made of glass, and DIY bodywork using mainly duct tape. And the drivers are just straight up menaces to society. I guess this guy's bumper had better things to do that day. This guy's car is starting to look like a pack of Skittles, and this guy decided, parking in front of his apartment just wasn't good enough. But in 2020, Chris Forsberg of Formula Drift fame picked one hell of a COVID lockdown project when he built this thing, the Ultimaniac, a full tube chassis R35 powered 4-seat drift car. Now, this thing shares very little mechanical or structural parts with a regular Ultima. It's built on a purpose-built tube frame chassis, and I'm pretty sure it's the first full tube chassis drift car. Now, being a tube chassis means it's not a body-on-frame or a unibody like a conventional road car. It's instead built on this jungle of tubes for better structural rigidity, and it's pretty much only used in race applications. This thing is also R35 powered with a 2,000 horsepower capable VR38 and 4 bucket seats for ride-alongs, so it's a party car. Now, I believe this is primarily used as a demo car. I don't think it's FD legal, but it's got this really sick DTM touring car body kit on it, so it looks incredible. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like and follow for more. We have some breaking news. The US government has finally decided that after 25 years, this old hunk of metal from Japan is now safe. That's right, once a car becomes too old for Leo to date, it goes from illegal contraband to classic automobile. Why, you ask? Let's talk about it. With some exceptions, cars that weren't originally offered in the States are illegal to import. That is, until they turn 25 years old. Why is that? It essentially goes back to excessive gray market import practices in the 80s. A lot of customers were just skipping going to American dealerships and importing their own vehicles from places overseas, namely places like Europe. A lot of these cars were never offered in the US, but they were typically cheaper for American drivers to own. And that's even considering costs like shipping and compliance modifications. These cars often had features or entire models that were very rare in the US, which is why they were extra desirable. The first G-Wagons in the States were all gray market imports. Now, this obviously put local automakers on the ropes and put a huge dent in their profits. And so what do billion-dollar companies do when someone comes to eat their lunch? They lobby. And so the Imported Vehicles Safety and Compliance Act of 1988 was born. This made any car that wasn't at least 25 years old illegal to import, unless it had a version already being sold in the US. And this resulted in a lot of cars that were now illegal contraband being sent to the crusher. All of this means that if you live here, you don't get access to these, or these. The obvious goal was to protect manufacturers' profits, but the stated purpose was for the safety and well-being of the customer, citing subpar crash and emission standards. Which is weird because 17 states don't even require emissions testing. And then there's also the fact that European crash standards, for instance, like Euro NCAP, are way more stringent than ones in the US. And they also place more emphasis on frontal and side impacts, i.e. where the passengers are most in danger. Now, you might have noticed it is now 2025. Do some quick math and you'd figure out all the 90s JDM legends are now legal to import. So if you were planning on getting yours before prices skyrocketed, I think you missed the boat. But if the news is anything to go by, it will probably get worse, so I guess bye. What do you think? Should this law even be a thing anymore? Comment below, like and follow for more.
Lately, Nissan has been grabbing headlines for all the wrong reasons. But this latest piece of news kinda hurts. Nissan has finally closed the order books for the R35 in Japan, meaning the GTR is finally dead after 18 years. 18 years. This thing came out in 2007. That's when the iPhone first dropped. Breaking Bad wasn't even on the air yet, and we were listening to Buy You a Drink and Crank That on one of these. And a certain subprime lending bubble was getting ready to burst. This thing is literally old enough to drive. And vote. It's like when I found out the OG VW bus was made in Brazil till 2013. But when this thing came out, it was such a game changer. It was putting a beating on exotic supercars for a fraction of the price. This thing went from 0 to 60 quicker than I can say this sentence. And these things are insanely tunable. Go to any TX2K event and you're not competitive unless you have north of 2500 horsepower. It is not a stretch to say this car forced the auto industry to step its game up. And it was particularly unexpected for something with a Nissan badge on it. But the thing about Nissan is they're the undisputed kings of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they like to keep things exactly the way they are for way too long. And over the 18 years this car was in production, it became way too old and way too expensive. In the later years, this Nismo edition was well over 200,000 sticker. And yes, this car did still have its performance chops. It took the world a long time to catch up. But you can only play the special edition game so long before we have to call you out on it. Depending on how you count them, the R35 had 20 special editions. I kid you not, the only special thing about this 50th anniversary edition is stickers. Yeah, you see that 50th anniversary text and the big white stripe going down the middle? Yeah, that's all they did for $8,500. But seeing this car go is still very sad. It does represent the end of an era after all. What's even more sad is its successor, if there will even be one, is supposed to be all electric. But Nissan would actually need to survive for that to happen, and that looks less and less likely by the day. So really, this car's future is up in the air. What do you guys think? Comment below, like, and follow for more.
So, you want a motorcycle, but you don't want to get evicted into the next life if you were to get into an accident. That leaves you with two options. You could either get one of these ridiculous motorcycle airbags and up your survivability by a whole 5%, or you could settle for 4 wheels and build one of these, a Mazda Miata powered by a motorcycle engine. You ask anyone, they'll tell you the Mazda Miata is one of the top competitors for the best driver's car. These things weigh virtually nothing and they're incredibly fun to drive. It's so perfect, in fact, its name is literally an acronym for Miata is always the answer. The original NA came out in 1989 and over 1 million have been sold since. Now these things were never meant to be fast, turning on the AC robs half your horsepower. That's this car's whole point. You're supposed to beat the hell out of it while barely cracking over the speed limit. So what happens when you mix a cheap price tag with abundant numbers? People start to experiment. And as such, the Miata has become the ultimate blank canvas for all sorts of builds and engine swaps. People use them for drag racing, time attack, drifting. People put diesels in them. People turn them into off-roaders. There's entire companies that'll sell you a kit to put a V8 in one. For crying out loud, people have even Tesla swapped these. Yeah. Somebody put a swastika's guts into one of these. And just when you thought every combination has been done before, here comes YouTuber Reed Make Car. And Reed not just make car, Reed make fast car. He started out with a running and driving CBR 1000RR, harvested all of its key components like the motor, transmission, and harness, then gutted everything he could out of NNB Miata including the roof, and then married the two together with as much cutting and fabrication as necessary. He even fabbed up this crazy looking bumper exit exhaust. And this is the end result. Now you might have noticed there's a lot more room for activities in that engine bay. Which is why this thing is currently under the knife to get a turbo. So I would definitely go check out Reed's channel to follow the build. And while you're there, subscribe to this guy too. He's making some pretty cool shit. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, like and follow for more.
So what's this Celica gonna look like? At this point, we should all know better than to get excited over these internet renderings. Lord knows I've been hurt before, and I'd rather not go through it again. It will take some design cues from older models, but ultimately what the end product will look like is anyone's guess. What we can do is make some educated guesses on the mechanicals. It will probably make use of Toyota's proprietary GR4 all-wheel drive system found in the GR Corolla and GR Yaris. However, I believe giving it the same engine would make the car redundant. It would be the third car in the lineup to have it. Enter Toyota's new G20E 4-cylinder engine. Toyota just unveiled this motor at the Tokyo Auto Salon, installed in the back of this GR Yaris. By the way, this thing is mid-engine because the engine is in front of the rear wheels, and this is supposed to be the basis of the MR2, but more on that later. Now, articles are spotty around this thing, but it is supposed to be a turbo 4-cylinder based on the 3-cylinder found in the GR models, and it's supposed to make as much as 400 horsepower. It's supposed to be a game changer according to engineers. Now, as far as price goes, obviously no word yet, but it is probably going to be way too expensive, and it'll probably be around 50K sticker if I had to guess. It'll for sure be way more with dealer markups, but when these things hit the used market, man,
Yeah, boy.
another thing to get excited about is this might be Toyota's first nitpick-free sports car. Let me explain. The Supra had the whole BMW thing. The GR86 isn't pure Toyota because it was built with Subaru and has a boxer engine, and the GR Corolla is just a 3-cylinder.
Now, don't get me wrong, I think these cars are amazing, and the enthusiast market has responded amazingly well to these. But Toyota might just perfect the formula with the Celica. It's going to be a all-Toyota project with a full-fat turbo 4-cylinder with probably no hybrid crap. Only way they could mess this up is if they make it auto only. But I doubt Toyota would go that route given what they've learned from the Supra. But Toyota is rumored to be developing 2 other sports cars as part of an initiative it's calling the Three Brothers. First there's the Celica, and then a next-generation Supra, but also a next-gen MR2. Now, think about what the MR2 has always been. Rear-wheel drive and mid-engine. Just like this car I was talking about earlier from the Tokyo Auto Salon. So it wouldn't be a stretch to assume Toyota would build the new engine and put it in a front-engine all-wheel drive chassis, as well as a rear-wheel drive mid-engine chassis. Let me know what you think in the comments, like and follow for more.
Let's talk about Toyota. This is where you go if what you want out of a car is for it to outlive you and your entire bloodline, but not much else. Toyota's critical selling point has always been legendary reliability. However, for the longest time, all they had were these uninspired appliances, and they had given up on any semblance of having X Factor. And following the trend of being nostalgic for a decade most of us were barely alive for, you could say Toyota's best days were in the 90s. This is when they made the most beloved versions of some of their cars like the Toyota Supra, the MR2, and this Celica. But more on that later. In recent years, though, Toyota's been taking this creatine and getting back in the gym. Their former CEO, Akio Toyoda, with a D, famously declared that the company would make no more boring cars. And from this point on, they would go on a run of reviving a lot of their legacy sports cars, as well as creating some cool original concepts. First, there was the BRZ and FRS, which eventually became the GR86. Then they brought back the Supra, and then they wondered, what would a Chihuahua be if it were a car? And they made this, the GR Corolla. And what's crazy is you can buy either one of these today. Toyota is building all of them at the same time. No other mainstream car company is doing this. Now, I know what you're thinking. This guy has been yapping for way too long and he still hasn't gotten to his point.
Boring.
My point is, Toyota's going to take it even further as they've just trademarked the GR Celica name. They've also confirmed the car will return with a 2027 model year. Now, the original Celica has its roots in the 70s. This is an era where Japanese sports cars were famously trying to emulate American muscle cars in their styling, taking several styling cues like quad headlights, bulging hoods, and short deck, long nose body dimensions as you see here.
Bro, pause, bro. Pause.
Towards the end of its life, however, the Celica had become front-wheel drive and was pretty synonymous with early 2000s tuner culture, hideous body kits and all. Somewhere in the middle, though, Toyota made this, the Celica GT4, a rally homologated monster with a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder and all-wheel drive. And I have every reason to suspect Toyota is going to follow this blueprint when building the GR Celica. That can follow for part 2 where I break it down.
I did have a script for this video, but I decided to use a well-known AI tool and turn it into a Dr. Seuss poem. Cause why the hell not? Let's do it. Let's talk about Camaro, the beast we once knew. A muscle car legend in red, white, and blue. With blind spots so bad it's almost unfair. Like peeking through glass in a welding mask glare. The Mustang's great rival, the yin to its yang. Through decades of burnouts, it still had its bang. But then came the news. Oh, what a disgrace. In 2023, it bowed out of the race. Coupes losing their charm, declining in sales. Camaro was shelved as the market derails. The internet buzzed, the rumors ran wild. Would Camaro return or be lost to the pile? The worst case scenario? A tragic demise. Like Eclipse before it, an SUV in disguise. Now crossovers reign. No spice, no roar. Only CVTs and plastics galore. Proposals arose, but all were shot down. Too costly, too risky. No answers were found. So what's the way forward? What's left to explore? Well, maybe, just maybe, it should grow some more doors. Think of the Charger and its genius plan. V8 power with room for the fam. 4-door practicality, sales through the roof. From '06 to now, that's the living proof. But wait, you may shout, Chevy's been there before. The SS was a 4-door, yet sales were a bore. Oh, but my friend, here's the real truth. The SS was hidden. No marketing juice. A rebadged Holden shipped in to comply. It wasn't a failure, it just didn't try. Its styling was bland, it blended too well. Like some Malibu clone, with no story to tell. If only Camaro could tweak, and maybe refine. A bold 4-door shape with a menacing line. You could even win with 2 styles, you know. 2-door for the thrill and 4-door for the show. Rework the Alpha platform, extend it with grace. Give us some doors, but don't lose the face. Call it all new like they did with the Camry. We'd eat it up too, no need to be fancy. So tell me, dear viewer, what do you think? Is Camaro still floating or starting to sink? Like and follow for more. Look, I'm just gonna say it. New trucks kinda suck. Light trucks and SUVs absolutely dominate today's car market. To prove this, all you need to do is go to your local Walmart and check out the ocean of RAV4s and F-150s. Statistically speaking, you probably drive one. However, if most people were honest about the way they actually use these things, they'd probably be better served with a hatchback or a minivan. To understand this, let's think about what the mission statement for your average half-ton or 1-ton pickup is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a durable utilitarian tool that you can use to tow heavy machinery, load heavy materials, and access remote work sites. In reality, however, using these trucks the way they were intended is more of an edge case rather than the norm. The average owner uses their truck to commute to the office, pick up their kids from school, and maybe get the groceries. And if you've ever had to grab groceries out of the back of a truck, we all know that's a nightmare. Things get tossed around everywhere and things are so hard to reach. I mean, I'm pretty sure they just set that up nice and neat for the picture. Also, let's be honest, the most off-roading 90% of these trucks are ever gonna see is when they accidentally drive on the grass at their favorite drive-thru. And look, I get it. Trucks look cool, and you might not want to turn in your man card and go get a minivan just because you're a dad now. But have you seen minivans these days? I mean, these are not what they used to be. These are pretty much luxury limos at this point. And for that one time a year where you might have to move a couch, you could just go get a U-Haul and use your regular car for daily duties. But that's just the problems with the owners. There's a lot more issues with the trucks themselves. For starters, they're pretty dangerous. Heavy pickup trucks are by far and away the most dangerous vehicles on the road according to several reports. The front ends of these things are essentially designed like massive walls. And with your elevated driving position, you essentially have to hope you don't run over grandma when you're pulling into the driveway. This image above me is from a study conducted by kidsincars.org. None of these children were visible from the driver's point of view. See a problem yet? I mean, for crying out loud, entire cars can disappear in these blind spots. This means that in accident scenarios with pedestrians, you're more likely to high-five one of these land trains with your face, torso, and possibly get dragged under the vehicle, versus getting hit in the legs and going over with a regular passenger car. Both scenarios are obviously not ideal, but this could mean the difference between life and death. Now, you might be thinking, if I get into an accident driving one of these, hey, at least I'll be safe. It's the other guy that's gonna get banged up.
Are you sure about that?
You would be wrong. That's because I'm willing to bet my life savings that you are in fact not Lewis Hamilton. And you would probably not know what to do if a truck decides to roll over on you. Which, surprise, surprise, these things are super prone to due to their high center of gravity. That footage was from what's called a moose test. A moose test is what's typically used to test stability in all sorts of vehicles, and this Toyota Hilux failed, nearly flipping over. You gotta remember, these full-size SUVs and trucks are comically massive, some of them weighing 6,000 to 7,000 pounds, or about 3 to 4 medium-sized Texans. And they have dimensions similar in size to World War II era tanks. Yeah. Now, how did we even get to have these behemoths on the road? That's going to be for part 2, because this video is getting way too long. Comment your thoughts, like, and follow for more. That is a chicken. And when you think about chickens, you'd probably think about eggs, a certain joke about crossing the road, or maybe your favorite place to get unseasoned tenders. But you probably don't think about these things. What if I told you chickens are responsible for shaping the entire American truck market as we know it today? Let me explain. Post-World War II, poultry farming saw staggering growth in the United States, and Europe, still reeling from the war, became increasingly dependent on American imported chicken. Fast forward 20 years, and Germany and France were in much better positions economically, and so they decided to tax this American imported chicken in a bid to stimulate farming growth in their own nations. And in a move not too dissimilar to today's news, America retaliated with its own tax, notably on items like brandy, cornstarch, and light trucks, imposing a flat 25% tariff on any imported light pickup truck. This suddenly made a lot of vehicles too expensive to import, but some manufacturers tried to be sneaky and game the system. Some manufacturers started importing their trucks as a collection of parts, assembling them on American soil, thereby skirting the tax. And since the tax only applied to single-row trucks, Subaru imported their Brat pickup truck with these dinky little jump seats attached to the bed. This made the truck a two-row, and they got out of paying the tax on a technicality. However, lawmakers did eventually crack down on these loopholes, and from this point on, small imported pickup trucks like these virtually became extinct. But why did America commit to making massive monstrosities instead of their own little pickups? Well, in response to the 70s oil crisis, Congress passed what's known as the CAFE standard. Basically, Congress told the automakers if they don't hit a specific miles per gallon rating across their entire fleet, they would be hit with fines. The automakers lobbied hard, however, and argued that these big boy trucks should be classified as separate from regular cars. According to them, these things fill a vital role in the economy and are driven by hardworking Americans that build our homes, roads, and buildings. And it worked. These gas guzzlers were made exempt from certain safety and emission standards, thereby making them cheaper to produce. After that, marketing did what marketing does, and the industry became incentivized to sell as many of these as possible. Share your thoughts in the comments, like and follow for more.
This is Dodge, and Dodge has done many amazing things for society over the years. They put a Hellcat engine in this, then they put it in this, then they threw it in this. Then they put it in... No, they didn't go quite that far. The point is, they used to make really cool stuff. But you might remember they used to make this demonic little two-seater called the Viper. The Viper is what happens when a group of engineers chug a six-pack of energy drinks, decide seatbelts are for cowards, and chuck a V10 truck engine into a scaled-up go-kart. These first-gen Vipers are so unruly, in fact, that 30% of them were crashed by their owners on their way back from the dealership. And over the course of its generations, the Viper was known as one of the more homicidal, yet also one of the most capable supercars ever put on sale. And yes, I call it a supercar. This is not your dad's Corvette. This ACR trim grabbed several track records in its day. And just look at it. It looks ready to rip your face off. And it came from the factory that way. And so what did Dodge, in their infinite wisdom, decide to do with this bruiser? They axed it. And the last one rolled off the assembly line in 2017. Fun fact, that is this exact car. Fast forward to 2023, and Dodge would also discontinue the Hellcat engine in all of its passenger cars, as well as the LX platforms altogether, the Charger and the Challenger. This put Dodge in a weird spot. For the first time in decades, they didn't really have a real performance offering. Aside from this abomination, but that's a video for another day. But in a recent interview, Dodge CEO Matt McClear had some interesting thoughts when asked about bringing forth a successor to the Viper. But first, some context. Dodge is owned by Stellantis, and Stellantis has been circling the drain financially for several years now, owing to their questionable design choices. Electric charge. Excuse me. Questions around reliability and quality control, as well as increasing vehicle costs. I'm not entirely sure why a Jeep Wrangler would cost $100,000, but apparently that is the world we live in. Now, back to the interview, Mr. McClear hit all the typical CEO talking points. We need to cut costs, we need to make a better product, etc., etc. But he also mentioned there might be a market for a top-of-the-line Halo, as well as a entry-level Halo. The quote from the interview says, I think there's some kind of entry level, back to that sub $30,000 mark for people who just want to have a weekend car again, who would like a Viper but don't have that $100,000 to $120,000 to get into those. Now, taking all of that in, it sounds like he might be describing some sort of a Miata BRZ competitor. And it wouldn't be the first time Dodge actually built something like that. This vehicle here is called the Dodge Demon Concept Vehicle. It was meant to slot directly below the Viper and fill that role of entry-level light, nimble sports car. Unfortunately, this vehicle never saw the light of day. Also, let's not forget Fiat, which is another Stellantis brand, made this weird Miata twin, the 124. I'm not condoning badge engineering, but you could just slap a Dodge badge on the front of that and call it a day. On the other hand, considering all of their financial woes, greenlighting the budget for a low-volume sports car might be low on their list of priorities, but what do you think? Is this wishful thinking, or is there a light at the end of the tunnel here? Let me know in the comments below, like and follow for more.